Hello everyone and welcome back to Growing with TJ. Today we're out here in the garden. You can see it's overcast. We got showers off and on, but we got work to get done. So we are out here today. I'm going to put another raised bed in, which is going to be primarily for my peppers. I'll give you just a tour of everything that's growing. Everything's doing really well. We've been getting a lot of rain, so everything has really started taking off with some good temperatures. Next week we do have some lows in the 26th, so I'll talk about, what I will be covering. A lot of things in the garden right now can take a cold like that, but I will be covering the lettuce just because I don't want the leaves to get burnt from frost damage. So we'll just take you around and we'll show you what I'm doing today, and it should be a beautiful day in the garden. Let's get to work. All right, guys, let's just do a little garden update, show you what I got going on in the garden so far this year. Right here is some carrots that I planted. Now I do have the boards right there. I took it off just to give it some air. The soil is very moist from all the rain we've been having. So there'll be carrots here, and then next week, a couple weeks later, I planted them last week, I'll put more carrots and then more carrots 2 weeks later. So succession sowing to its finest. Right here is the garlic. Is looking very good. I mentioned I was concerned if it's going to pop up, but being back here doesn't get as much sun as the main garden, so it just took a little longer for the soil to thaw, and once it did, the garlic popped up. You can see a lot of new growth. It's looking very good, and mostly everyone popped up besides right here, so I'm happy with that. I don't know if you can see, something's been digging in this bed. We got a lot of stray cats. So I don't know if maybe it's cats or possibly a squirrel that maybe buried some nuts and they're digging them back up. So I have to keep an eye on that. I did put some pepper flakes down trying to deter the pest or whatever animal is coming in. But, it's a little bit of a concern. You can see right there, getting awfully close to digging up the plant, so I'm not too thrilled about that. Maybe it's a skunk digging for some grubs or something along those lines, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, and hopefully they don't get to any of the roots. So I'm not sure, maybe that bluebird, I think it was a bluebird. Not sure, maybe it is making a nest in there. Come over here, this is the Reliance peach, and you can see it is blooming like crazy. Now, this is the third year for this peach, so I'm not going to keep all those flowers. I'll be thinning them out pretty good here, probably today or sometime soon. We do have a frost coming on Wednesday. It's going to be 26, so it's pretty good hard freeze we're going to get. So most of these flowers probably will be damaged from that anyways. But yeah, I'm going to give it one more year of pretty heavy pruning on the flowers, and then we will hopefully start getting a lot of peaches. You can see kind of like this branch, how it's going down like this. I like the angle. I definitely like this branch right here that just this is first year for that branch. You can see no flowers, just some leaves. This isn't too bad either. A lot of these going straight up, I will be thinning them out, cutting them off eventually, but as of now I'm just kind of letting it go. I did thin out some of them, but I kind of want them on that angle like that. So the peach is doing well. You can see a lot of empty space here. This is going to be a lot of summer crops. However, I'm going to start putting some cauliflower and broccoli in here. I don't do too much in the spring. I do mostly fall broccoli and cauliflower, but I do put a little bit in. Coming over here, you can see we got the peas doing very well. Not too concerned with them about the frost. They can take it. There's no flowers or pods on there. If there were, then the frost will do some damage. But this is a mammoth sugar snow pea, melting snow pea, and this is a green arrow shelling pea. So they all look pretty good. Down here we have the radish. This is a crimson giant, and they are doing pretty well. Happy with how they look. Then if you come over here, this is the candy carrot, and pretty good germination over here. It can be tricky for the germination process of a carrot. You got to keep the soil moist. I told you I like to put a board over it. Once you start seeing them pop up, you have to take the board off, then continue to keep the soil moist because they might germinate at different times. So you don't want it to dry out or you'll have a poor germination. But pretty happy with that. Coming over here, this is the raspberry. Not seeing much on, the second year growth yet. You can see though there is some buds. But if you come down here, we do have some new growth. Right there, new growth, new growth, new growth. So the raspberry is starting to wake up. We walk over here. This is the onion bed. And they are looking good. I'm seeing a lot of new growth on the onions. And we've had some really crazy winds since I planted these. So, they have taken to the soil. They're doing well. And we'll keep caring for it. And we will have a good onion year. Next year, I might not plant them right here because we do get some crazy winds coming this way. And that might affect them this year. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But we might have to just plant the onions in a different bed next year. And those onions, they are the Calabra onion. That is what I got planted over there. We come here. Back here we have the Detroit red beet right here. Looking pretty good. And they were planted on 3/9, so it's been almost a month. They're not growing very fast, so the soil temperature must not be quite right for them. But either way, I got them in the ground and they're growing. And as the temperature warms up, soil temperature gets higher, they will do just fine. This is more candy carrot, and you can see the germination not nearly as good as over on the other bed. So they can be tricky to germinate. You just got to keep the soil moist. Right here is a Touchstone golden beet. Again, looking pretty good, just very slow growth early on in the spring. Down here is the white icicle radish. And that is a white, longer radish. You can see the spacing I have here. And that's pretty good. They don't get too thick. They're more long. So I like that spacing. See here, that's a raspberry popping up. Now if I come over here, this is the dwarf curled kale. Planted by seed, and again, pretty slow growth. Over here I'm going to put my determinate tomatoes. But I figure I'd get some kale in here before it's time for the tomatoes. Right here you can see this lettuce has been in these containers for a while. I just haven't been able to get them out. So they're way too big, but I might sneak them somewhere here. We got cilantro back there, and cauliflower and broccoli. And cilantro likes cooler weather, so a lot of people think it likes the heat, and that's not true. It will bolt, so get your cilantro out as soon as possible. This is a Cats Plus Marina, I believe, pansies, and some more lettuce. Now, I don't put a lot of early flowers out. I just want to get some pansies. They're pretty cold tolerant, and get some color in the garden. All right, so this is where my tomatoes are going to go. I must get another cattle panel, but I also have a bunch of flowers, marigolds, maybe some nasturtiums along here. I'm going to put a basil plant in the back there. Come here, you can see we got about 1.5 inches of rain this week. I haven't emptied it, so we'll empty that now. So yeah, we've gotten quite a bit of rain. Another thing I want to show you is the sunflowers from last year, volunteer sunflowers, are popping up. So I guess they're trying to tell me something. You know, it's getting close to time to put my sunflowers in the ground, and I direct sow them. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how early they come up. Now with the frost coming, I'm not sure, will they get damaged, or are they, you know, stronger because they are volunteer plants. Another lettuce I just threw in the corner. You come over here, this is my 4x8x2 raised bed. It's going to be primarily peppers. You can see I didn't have enough soil. I was hoping to get some radishes planted, you know, before I put all the peppers in about a month, but we'll have to do that next week. And one thing I want to talk about is the birdies raised bed right here compared to the wind pool. I got that off Amazon, and it was only like $50, $60, so pretty cheap. Overall, the birdies quality is much better, but it's not that much different. I shouldn't say much better. It's just a little better quality, but it's also way more expensive. The wind pool, a lot cheaper, and you know, it's a good option if you don't want to spend a ton of money on a raised bed. The only negative thing about the wind pool is that, you know, they put plastic on the outside to cover it so it doesn't get scratched up. And it's very hard to get it off on the wind pool. It's just very thin, and it's not put on there very well. For the birdies, it's thicker plastic, and it is very easy to get off. So, you know, kind of a annoyance, but it's not that big of a deal. If you don't have the money to buy birdies or a more expensive raised bed, you know, you can go with wind pool or something a little cheaper. Over here, this is going to be my strawberry bed. You know, this is the first year, so it's going to be a work in progress. But they're all ever-bearing strawberries, All-Star and, or I'm sorry, June-bearing strawberries. All-Star and Honey O is what I got in here. So it's just going to be kind of a work in progress. And over time, you know, we'll be getting a lot of strawberries. Got some spinach back here, lizard spinach. We got some more here. So we're just trying to put seeds and transplants in different times to get, you know, a lot of succession harvesting done. Now, if I come over here, this is my lettuce and spinach bed. You can see these are all grown indoors, and they are looking really good. One thing I want to mention is, you know, I wasn't watering as much as I should, because the last 2 weeks we've been getting a lot of rain, and they have really grown very well. And I was kind of seeing that they were kind of hurting from the lack of water that I was giving. So you just want to, you know, even though it's not too hot in the springtime, you still got to give them water, and they will respond to that. Bunch of different cotton in here, red sails, bronze minuet. That's a butter oak lettuce, which is a head lettuce. Red sail. We got an endive in the back there. Merlot red is in the back corner there. Then here we have lizard spinach, and back there it's kind of hard to see. That is purple fusion lettuce, and they were sowed by seed on 3-4. So again, growing really slow. The difference between them and the ones I started inside is a big difference, and you know, that's just going to allow me to get more harvest of lettuce and spinach. Another thing I want to mention, spinach does not prefer to be transplanted. That is 100% true. However, it can be transplanted. As you can see, this is what I grew from indoor inside. And it is a very good, healthy looking spinach. So you can do it, it doesn't prefer it. But why not do a little bit indoors? Because look, I'm going to get a harvest of spinach today. I'm going to pick off from all these right here, besides the butter oak, which is a head lettuce. And I'm going to start doing my come and cut again lettuce. So spinach can be transplanted. It may not prefer it, which is true, but it can be transplanted. I put these guys in early March, and you can see, you know, they're growing a little slow, but I'm already getting spinach, and that's just because I started them from seed indoors. So that's just my little soap talk right there. But you can, absolutely can transplant spinach. You know, I would just not, you know, disturb the soil when you're taking it out of the cell that you have it in. You know, don't loosen up the bottom of it and just put it right in the ground. And one thing I want to mention is you got to step back and appreciate all the hard work you've done up to this point. You know, we have lots to do in the garden, and it feels like we never can get it all done. But if you're thinking that way, you know, oh, I got all this to do, you're never going to enjoy the garden or appreciate what you've done so far. So take a step back. You know, you can see I added 3, 4 raised beds. I got onions, peas, lettuce, strawberries, garlic, peach trees blooming. You know, there's a lot that's going on that is positive. So take a step back and enjoy what you've done. Obviously, we got more work to do, and we got to keep working on it in the garden. But it's important to take a step back and appreciate what you've done so far. That way, you're not getting overwhelmed just thinking, oh, I got this to do, I got that to do, all this stuff you need to do. Take a step back and enjoy your garden. You know, it's an overcast day. You know, it's showers on and off, but it's a beautiful day. You know, it's joyful, I'm happy, peaceful, and that's how you want the garden to be. But if you're always thinking about what you have to do next, nonstop, you're not going to have that joy and peace. Right here is where I grow my potatoes. This is the Superior White. Did not pop up yet. I just put that in 320. And if we come over here, I did not put a tag in here, but that is a red Pontiac. Did not pop up yet. I just planted that. And this is the red Norlands, and that is finally popped up. I put that in early March. So with the frost coming, I will cover that. You know, they can bounce back from a frost, but potatoes do not prefer the cold weather like that. So I will have to cover that. You can see here, this soil I got from a greenhouse. Rocky, not very impressed with it. So, you know, I got a little bit from it to see how it is. Didn't like it, so I won't get it anymore. This one here, I got it from Maddie's Soil and Mulch, and that's in Elizabethtown, PA, local to where I live. And it is a much better soil. So that's what I went with in this raised bed as well. And that is green topsoil, mushroom compost, a little bit of peat, and some lime. So good quality soil. All right, so right now I'm just going to, you know, get this soil evened up a little bit, get any weeds out of here. I'm going to put 4 cauliflower and 4 broccoli. Now, I don't plant a lot of broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage in the spring. I mostly focus on the fall time for that. But we do love broccoli, so I'm going to put a little bit in for the springtime. Now, I don't want to take up too much space because this is where I'm going to be putting a lot of my squash, zucchini, peppers. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of work the soil a little bit, not much, just kind of even it out. And then we will put a couple broccoli in. So what I got here is a green comet broccoli and then a snow crown cauliflower. Just 4 each, that's all I'm going to be doing. So with the broccoli, I'm just going to get any weeds out. I'm going to have to take care of this over here, which is kind of always a issue for me. But yeah, loosen up the soil a little bit. Come and get my little bit of fertilizer in there. I mix that down in the soil. You know, I don't want it being right on the roots. And I just come and get my broccoli, And these guys are definitely ready to get out of this container. I bought these last week. Not very easy to get out of these containers, apparently. There we go. You can tell they're definitely probably a little root bound. Yeah. So these guys should have been planted out a little sooner. You can see how it's a little root bound. So I'll loosen that up on the bottom there. And then we will put that in. Nothing crazy, just like that. Now, one thing I will do is get some mushroom compost. And it's not the greatest quality stuff. You know, it's all hard work together, but I can break it up just like that. And put it around and kind of mix it in the soil. There you go. I'll put them, you know, about a foot apart, maybe a little bit more, 15 inches or so, and I'll just come down the line. All right, guys, so I am going to put this cilantro in now. One thing I want to mention about broccoli and cauliflower being near each other, it's not necessarily ideal because, you know, they are going to attract the same pests and they're also going to want the same nutrients from the soil. But for me, you know, if I can help control the pests and keep an eye on them, it'll be okay. And like I said, I like to plant more broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage in the fall. So this is just kind of me putting them in there. And hopefully I can get a nice head of broccoli. If not, it is not the end of the world. So right here I got a Santo cilantro. Now again, putting these next to the tomatoes, the good thing is the tomatoes will provide shade and maybe they can go a little longer, the cilantro, before it bolts. They can also repel some pests with the scent of the cilantro. However, it could take nutrients away from the tomato. But, you know, if you're making sure to, you know, replenish the soil, some fertilizer, water soluble, and granular like I'm using here, I'm using Garden Tone, which is a 4.45, I believe. You know, it can be okay. So I'm going to put it in here and we should be just fine, you know. Experiment. I've never planted cilantro next to tomatoes, so we will see how that goes. Man, but you can smell that cilantro. It smells wonderful. Very good smell that the cilantro is already putting out. That's all you gotta do right there. Now I plan to harvest most of the cilantro at once, and I'm going to dry it, you know, and keep it, you know, as a spice. So I will use it fresh a little bit as well. But, you know, when you got limited space, you know, I don't have a huge garden. It's a decent sized garden. I'm not going to say it's tiny, but it's not huge. So you kind of have to experiment, put stuff where you can and see how it does. And that's basically what you have to do. You got to take advantage of the space that you have. And cilantro does bolt rather quickly when it warms up. So I'm just hoping I can get a nice good harvest from this and make, you know, make a spice out of it. So there we have it. The Santo cilantro. And it is smelling wonderful. Alright guys, that is where I'm going to wrap up this video. We got a frost coming on Wednesday, about 26 degrees, looks like for a few hours. So I will put some plastic over this little hoop cover to protect the lettuce, because there is a chance that it will get burnt from the freeze. And you don't want your lettuce to be burnt because you're trying to eat that part of the lettuce. A lot of the other stuff, radishes, onions, beets, all that, I probably will not cover and just play the odds. I might cover the young broccoli over there since I just put it in the ground. Onion should do just fine. The garlic should do fine as well. Peas should not have an issue. If they had pods and flowers, that would be a different scenario where I would have to cover it, and it would not be too great of an outcome. The carrots, they are tiny, as you can see, but they should be okay, I believe. I might look into that a little bit more and see if maybe I should cover, this little bed right here. The radishes should be fine. We're not eating the radish leaves, although you can, but I do not. They should be okay. These guys being so young, maybe they will get a little cover over them just to be sure. And the peach back here, the flowers will definitely not like the frost. But like I said, I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of those flowers anyways. So we will let that be as well. And I'll probably just make this a little experiment, a little learning experience as well. With that type of temperature, I will come back and see how each one of these did. And in the future, depending on how they hold up against that type of temperature, 26 degrees, maybe in the future I will take more time to cover everything. Now we'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep you updated. Also let you know how these volunteer sunflowers do with a frost like that at 26 degrees. Strawberries, I think they will be okay as well. Very well, possibly could cover that up if I want to. The potatoes, for the ones that popped up, I will most definitely cover them. They will probably bounce back from a frost like that, and they're just starting to pop up, so they should be okay, but I might just cover that just to make sure what has popped up already will be okay. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll have a lot more content coming out. We're finally out in the garden. We're seeing green growth, new life. It's a great time of year. It's been a beautiful day out here, even with the rain showers. And just remember to take a step back and look at all the progress you've made. Now, you don't always want to be thinking about, I got this to do, I got that to do. Man, I got so much to do, which is true. We always have a lot of stuff to do in the garden. But it's very important to take a step back and just enjoy and appreciate what you've done so far. Happy growing, and I'll see you next time.